Obviously, people watching this, you're familiar with the famous D4. Pat is here again, joining us. Before we did a chat about drilling and what Pat wanted to see, which was aggressive but also deep drilling. So we're going to go into that. Probably talk about some other stuff. The last video looked like it did pretty well. It got a bunch of hits from some of the bigger
Yeah.
companies, big majors, which was pretty awesome. But first things first, Pat, how are you?
Good, good. I'm feeling great. The feeling I have right now is the equivalent of, I would say, like a kid that's with their parents and driving to Disney World. Like the feeling you're almost there and you can see the Disney World mountains in the background. That's how I feel right now, because we're heading somewhere and we can see the destination in sight. That's how I feel right now.
Oh, it's good. The finish line is approaching. You can
Yeah.
see the bigger picture. Well, great. I mean, did we want to kick off? Obviously on the last video, you mentioned that you wanted to see deep drilling. Do you
Yeah.
want to chat about kind of what this news release came out as, the drilling plans, and does this fit into what you're happy of seeing?
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy with it. I thought we were going to have more meters in phase one. I expected to see more, but I think I understand what the plan is. It's a very strategic plan. The 2020 drill program is split into phase one, phase two, right? I thought we're going to see a lot more drilling in phase one, but I'll explain this. I think this is very strategic. He's only doing 4,000 meters, but the key thing is that he's doing things that shareholders have been wanting to see for many, many years. But the problem is, as a junior exploration company, you can't take those risks, because if you take those risks and you come out empty-handed, you may not be able to fund the next drill campaign. So the juniors, a lot of times, it's very, very baby steps. However, when you see a junior explorer decide to take those big risks, they're not really risks, they're calculated risks. So this drill program, we're seeing Doubleview actually take those extra risks, but they're very calculated risks. And like Farshad said in his last video, they're kind of minimal risks. Okay, drilling deep is very expensive. It costs a lot of money, but if you look at the deep IP and you look at hole 34, you can pretty much guess what's going to happen. So what I like is that they're confident enough to take these extra risks and actually give us, the shareholders, and give the market exactly what it's looking for. So when a company says we're going to drill deep, you really have to pay attention. Obviously, if they show up on the property and they've never explored the property, and there's no data, and they say they can drill deep, then that's probably a red flag. You gotta run and buy a better stock. But Doubleview has the data. They saw hole 34. Hole 34 is directly in the same ore body. It went right in the middle of the ore body. It pierced out at the other end. And what's interesting with hole 34 is it actually, when it pierced outside the IP, there's a good 50 to 100 meters of mineralization outside the IP. They validated the IP. It's very reliable. But now we're showing signs that what we see in terms of the IP, it's actually bigger than what we see, which is pretty interesting. So they're drilling 4,000 meters. It's much lower than what I thought. So phase one, I believe it's all about strategy. This strategy is they're going to try to give the market what it wants and to set it up for phase two. So, like I said, we're seeing Doubleview things that we've never seen it before. That deep 1,500-meter hole, the deep IP shows mineralization down to 1,250, and that's probably a limitation. It probably goes much further based off how porphyry is formed. So I expect in the 1,500-meter hole, I sure hope they make it to 1,500 meters, and I have a gut feeling that they're probably going to go much deeper. The current drill rig that they have is probably good for about 1,500 meters to 600 meters. And like Farshad said in the last video, if they bring in a heavy-duty drill rig, then it's going to be something. it means something. So if they actually get down to their target, 1,500 meters, you know, if we get some like 1,200 meters, 1,300 meters, we're talking instant world-class deposit right there with a porphyry. You know, a porphyry's high tonnage, low grade, but the thing is, everything around it might not be, you know, perfectly economic based off the current prices of copper and gold. But once you drill that glory hole, and you know, based off how porphyry's formed, all the good grades are in the feeder system, right? In the feeder system. So they haven't drilled that. So once we drill that and we actually get the glory hole, like basically like Red Chris, the money-making hole, everything around it becomes very economic because the whole deposit centered around the feeder zone, the system's core. So this first hole that they're starting with, which is very gutsy, but I believe they're doing it with a lot of confidence, has the potential to make us into a world-class deposit instantly. You got Red Chris. In my report with Red Chris, they have, I believe they have, their deposit goes down to about 1,500, almost 1,600, about 1,700, 1,600 meters. We'll round it up, give them benefit of the doubt. And the significant mineralization only goes down to 1,100 meters. Although if you look at the deposit, it actually shows it going down to about 1,500. But the significant mineralization is 1,100 and above. So we know Red Chris is a world-class deposit with all categories off the top of my head. I think they've got about 2.4 billion tons. And it's one of the most recent mines that was put in production in about 2014. So it's a great one to compare with. So if we get that deep hole and it gives us the mineralization that we're looking for, and you know, this is going to put Doubleview on the map. Right now, it's still a hidden gem. A lot of knowledgeable investors have heard about it, but I think that's going to put us on the map. So I find it interesting they're starting off that hole with the deep hole. We'll get into that a little bit later. The next hole, they're going to go up in the north area where they found the 8 grams per ton surface sample and 4.8% copper, I believe. So that's pretty interesting because if you look at the IP, you actually see a pretty nice big target there. And Farshad described that as a big target. But if you look at the IP north of the Lyle zone, you can see a pretty nice little ore body that goes down. But with you know, obviously that kind of 8 grams per ton and 4.8% copper doesn't fall from the skies. It's a surface sample, so it's a great target, and it's got a nice little ore body right there. So they're going up to the north, and they're going to drill that. And I believe that could even be a starter pit. If we got the high enough grades for gold, we've got a starter pit right there. I believe Hoey down the south is going to be a starter pit as well, just because of the grab samples and stuff. That's another great target that a lot of shareholders are waiting for him to drill. So, and once he drills the north hole, then, like you said, it's going to expand the Lyle zone about 1.5 kilometers long. We already know it extends much longer than that, but we're talking about the drilled length. So, and then the third hole, he said he's going to drill in the east. I'm not too sure about, but we can see the IP is kind of a nice little rectangle, but you can't see what's to the east. I don't know if that was strategically cut or the IP just never showed anything, but you can tell if you look at the IP. In my report as well, I put some nice little arrows showing look to the left, to the east, look to the west. It's cut off and it shows that it carries on. So I'm not too sure what lies there, but obviously drilling to the east is going to expand it to the width of the Lyle zone, and the one to the north is going to expand it the length. So phase one, I think, is a very strategic phase, and what I think it's going to do. And like I said, he's very gutsy to start off with a 1,500 meter hole. But I think what he's going to try to do is, we have to remember they want to do a maiden resource estimate, and I estimate they need at least 25 holes, 25 to 35 holes. So we've only got a couple of holes in phase one. So you know. What does that tell us about phase two? Phase two means it's, you know, if they're actually going to deliver a maiden resource estimate, that's telling us they've got at least 25 to 35 holes that they have to drill in phase 2. So that's where I see the aggressive drilling is going to happen. This phase 1, I think it's a strategic phase. He has the confidence to start with a very deep hole that I think he believes is going to be, my magic 8 ball actually told me, is pointed out that first hole should be pretty good. So I think we're going to be very happy with that. So with the first hole, that should be our money-making hole. It should turn us into a world-class deposit. And the second hole and third hole are going to demonstrate the potential, extend the Lyle zone a little bit further north-south, and extend it east-west. And then that, I believe, that will set us up for the aggressive phase 2. So with that very deep hole, I expect it to be very good. If we pull out 1,200 meters, 1,300 meters of mineralization, that's especially if it's significant mineralization, that's going to be even better than what Red Chris has. And we know how world-class Red Chris is. That'll set up for phase 2. And Farshad is all about minimizing dilution. So I believe with phase 1, it's all about get us to a much higher stock price. Phase 2 is all about aggressive drilling, possibly multiple drill rigs. But in order for him to do that and to minimize dilution, because that's something he cares about, we need a much higher stock price. So like I said, phase 1, I believe, is going to be the money-making phase. Phase 2 is going to be the aggressive one basically going to be able to do a maiden resource estimate. And that phase 2, I believe, is what's going to set us up for a buyout. Obviously majors want to see tonnage. They want to see a maiden resource estimate. So I believe the phase 2 is going to be the aggressive one, and it's going to set us up for a possible buyout, like we've discussed in the past. So that's how I see drilling for the 2020 going ahead. And what's interesting is that they just announced, yesterday, drilling started yesterday. They're going to do phase 1 and phase 2 basically back to back with possibly only a couple of weeks in between. So, and then he discussed the method to increase drilling, which my biggest concern was that we thought drilling was going to start a little bit sooner. And my biggest concern is that, the company in the past sometimes went up drilling a little bit too late. You can never account for delays, issues. The last drill phase, they had some issues. I think 1 or 2 holes had to be restarted. They had issues with the holes. So, the later you go up to drill, the more likely you're going to be pressed for time trying to accomplish the drill plan before winter sets in. So that was my biggest concern. So I was happy to hear that he's got a plan that's going to, a very aggressive plan, phase 1, phase 2. We've got, between now and mid-December to be able to drill safely before winter sets in, with possibly with just 2-3 weeks break. And like I said, I'm very happy to hear that he's got this method. And I was told that the company he's using is one I think they used in 2016. There's 1 year where they got the drill program done extremely efficient, very, very quickly.
The same one he's using.
So I'm very happy that they're using that company. And I also heard too that supposedly the drill company is using. My concern was that, I've got some buddies that are in the mining business, somewhere out in Grasberg, and when they, some of the pictures that they saw in the past, a couple of years ago, they were using pictures of a very old drill rig that was beat up. That's probably past seeing the best of its days. And that was my concern. So I'm happy to know that the drill company is actually using a relatively new or almost new drill rig, which was a concern of mine, is that if you're going to go up there and drill these super deep holes, 1,500 meters, possibly deeper, well, you need the right equipment to be able to do that. Otherwise, then it's going to cause delays, and we may never get that hole done.
So keep it high level. What I think could be interesting, obviously there's a ton of, you're the Mr. Professor when it comes to the group, you're always teaching everybody. Keep it extremely high level, keeping in mind that there's people in the group that this is their first mining investment.
Yeah.
And maybe just walk through the timeline of look, this is how long, we've been told, or I expect until it's at this, we raise money here, and without no stock price stuff, just timelines of
Yeah.
what's going to happen, in your opinion, up until, they're kind of finished or starting that phase 2 drilling, whichever one you want to go with, kind of just map people out. So they're drilling right now. How
Yeah.
long do you expect that to take? We're going to get samples, obviously, or like cores, and then Farshad takes those, and just kind of familiarize people with the process and the timeline so that, they can kind of set themselves up for something.
Yeah. Well, basically timeline, there's no better time other than when we're below 10 cents when I was telling everyone to buy. Right now, there's no better time to buy now, because we still have financing, and we all know it's a well-known fact that when you're still raising money, stocks kind of don't happen to break out very much. They kind of flatline. So we're still raising money. So as soon as the rest of the financing is complete, I believe we'll start seeing. We already saw the first leg up, and then we've seen very thin or very close trading range over the last 3-4 weeks. I believe once we've closed that financing, we'll break out of that trading range, and we'll start a second leg up. We'll also, as we drill, since we're a bull market, when you're in a bear market, the problem with the bear market is that there's not much speculation. We're starting to see some speculation in the juniors where they're going to drill, the companies are moving. So that's speculation. People are speculating that the juniors always have their best seasons are starting in basically September all the way to December, January, up until they stop their drill campaigns, because obviously they're drilling, and drilling creates value and unlocks the value. So that's when the best time to buy is when they're drilling. So I believe once the financing's closed, a lot of people are wondering on the Telegram chat, I thought, why is the price not moving? Well, the financing's not done. Once that's done, then the little invisible hands that the financing protection team, price protection team is going to disappear, and they're going to let it run. So then the speculation comes. We should trend up. A good little known fact is that I think it was in 2016 when the stock ran to its all-time high to 40 cents. The rumor on the forums was that Double was drilling a deep hole. And we all know when a porphyry drills a deep hole, it can go from basically, just a non-economic porphyry to a world-class deposit or economic deposit. So the stock ran up to 40 cents. And then there was rumors, people thought that they were drilling deep, and then all of a sudden it crashed because they never ended up drilling. The rumors weren't true. So these deep holes do create speculation. So I believe there'll be a lot of speculation, a lot of drilling, and I've been doing all these reports. I have a new report coming out in probably a day or two that'll be pretty good. And then we expect the first holes. I think Farshad said he's going to be the 1,500 meter hole if they make it that deep. Obviously, what they're going to do is they're going to drill and take a look at the core. They're going to evaluate the core every X amount of meters and say continue, press, right? You don't want to just say, we're going to drill, the target might be 1,500 meters. Doesn't mean they're going to make it there, because once you've drilled 200 meters of nothing, of just dirt, that at some point you got to stop before it gets very costly. So let's assume they make it to the 1,500 meters. What the plan is, they want to take, I think, chunks. I think a chunk of 500 meters. They're going to send it to a lab. And the good thing about that is that we're going to get results much sooner. They're going to send it to a lab. They're probably going to do the turnaround of the lab that they typically use is about 3 weeks. The funny thing is that, the Golden Triangle, they've got a lot of drilling, because now this is bull market. All these companies have a lot of money. Money's easy to raise. So a lot of the Golden Triangle companies have a lot of big drill campaigns. And the big worry was that there's going to be backlogs at the labs. I actually contacted the manager of the lab that they use, and I asked him, said, hey, the Golden Triangle's got a lot of drilling, more drilling than usual. Are you going to have the capacity? Are you going to be able to keep up with the demand? And he's guaranteed me that they're fine. They've got the extra capacity. They can meet those 3-week turnarounds. So the first 500 meters, he's going to send to the lab. Probably going to take a couple of weeks. He's not going to pay extra. My guess is that the second chunk, the next 500 meters, as soon as it's ready, he's going to send it to the lab. And we've heard that he's willing. The company's willing to pay a little bit of extra to expedite those. So the second set, my guess is he's probably going to expedite the core, pay a little bit extra, so that it ends up being ready about the same time as the first 500. So technically, we'll end up with roughly, how many meters they sent, possibly about 1,000 meters. And Farshad said he's going to announce, he's not going to wait for the whole thing. So he's probably going to announce 1,000 meters. So we're probably going to get that early October. And then the great thing is that the last 1,000 meters, or not 1,000 meters, the last 500 meters or whatever is left, or 1,000 if he goes down to 2,000 meters, so wherever he goes. The great thing is that he's going to send it to the lab, and he won't have 1,500 meters to be analyzed. So we'll get a partial hole, and then we'll get the full one. So the first hole, I expect we can, if you look at hole 34, we already saw almost 700 meters mineralized. It kind of poked the ore body to the side. So we know already the first 700 meters is going to be mineralized. Now, after that 700 meters, we don't know all the way down to the target depth. So that we get, if they go to the 1,500 meters, we don't know what the other 800 meters is going to be. That's all the unknown. Yes, they have the IP, they have a good idea of what it's going to give us, but even the company doesn't know what it's going to, until the assays come back, won't actually know exactly what the magic number is. So that method is going to help create speculation. Because like I said, these deep holes have the possibility to turn this into its market cap's like 30 million right now, but we could easily quadruple the market cap off that deep hole very quickly. So I think leading into the first assays of the first 500 or 1,000 that's going to be released, we're going to see good speculation. And then once the whole hole is released, if he announces the first 1,000 meters, then I think we'll see huge speculation, because if the first 1,000 meters has 900 meters of mineralization, and it ended in mineralization, and they're still drilling, then we're going to see speculation increase, because now we know for a fact we've got 1,000 meters on our hands of mineralized good grades. I'm assuming they're going to be good. And then if you look at Tudor Gold, they've drilled, I think, something like 33 deep holes. They've got a lot of 1,050 meter holes, lots of them. So that'll add fuel to the fire. The fact that we have 1,000 meters and they're still drilling will increase that speculation. So I think, and then the wild card is that I don't know how we're going to figure this out. I mentioned in the Telegram group, we maybe have to start an observation point up near the site, so that we see like another drill rig being flown over. Then that tells us he's, in the video he said, if he has to bring in that heavy duty drill rig, that tells me he's going below 1,500 meters. I know for a fact that once they reach the target, if it still looks good, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep going. So who knows where we're going to stop? Are we going to stop at 1,400 meters? We're going to stop at 1,600 meters, 1,800 meters? All I know is the deeper we drill, and if the grades are porphyry style grades for British Columbia, then it will be put on the map. World-class deposit instantly. If hole 34 had a lot of majors contact them, I can just, I believe after hole 35, the deep hole, the majors are going to be possibly starting to look at numbers, and that could trigger some offers coming in, I believe. And awesome. I think that's why I believe is probably the first hole.
Yeah. No, so okay, so great. So let's and I know you know the disclaimer is we don't really know, do your own research, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff, of course. But just in the emphasis of, you know, people in your own group and on both of our followings really care, you know, about the price.
yeah.
You know, walk me through, you know, why do you think so the first questions, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, why do you think the price hasn't been increasing over the past couple weeks? You know, to a lot of people it kind of baffles them looking at, hey, like, wait a second, like I thought we were this good or as good as
Yep.
this company or that company, why isn't it growing? You touched on financing, I'd love to open that a little bit
Yep.
more, and then, you know, we can talk about maybe where you would think economically speaking it's going, and you know we can mention the report
Yep.
that meant, you know, and all that stuff. But if you want to kick it off with, you know, why hasn't the price gone up? You know, why are people sitting there like, wait a second, why isn't this giving us good
Yeah.
price action?
Well, I touched on it on the last video. It's a porphyry, and porphyries typically aren't, you know, to the market they're not sexy. You know, this is a gold bull market. Sure, we have very, you know, like I mentioned in the last video, if you're looking for quantity of gold, you know, you're going to go for porphyry. But if you're right now, what really makes these the gold stocks run, these juniors, are the high gold grades. You know, there might be people. The market is chasing these high grades, and these companies may have 0% chance of ever becoming a mine. You know, like I mentioned in the last video, Rick Rule said 1 out of 3,000 ore bodies actually becomes a mine. So, you know, a lot of people right now in the market are looking short term. They're looking for the high numbers. These high number gold grades are what fuels the market, what fuels these big moves. I think what's going to change that with porphyries, since the hat is porphyry, is that once the market realizes that this is very likely to get bought out, then they're going to jump in it. Because even if the stock price is 75, and we're talking about a $3 to $5 buyout price, it doesn't matter if you don't find a porphyry sexy. You're going to buy it in at 75 cents or even $1 because everyone's in this market to make money. They're chasing what the market likes. So I think that's what I think that first 1,500-meter hole, the first hole that they're going to do, hole 35, I think that's going to change the perception of the company. And it doesn't matter if you don't like porphyries or not. Everyone's in it for the money. They're going to be chasing it, I believe. I think that's why I think we're not seeing the kind of buying. I always knew the porphyries are not the key thing, but the key thing with the porphyries is that the majors, if you're looking to make a lot of money in buying a deposit that's going to be bought out, the porphyry is probably the best thing if you find something that's large enough deposit. And Doubleview has that right now. But the majors right now, they're looking for the biggest deposits. They're looking for porphyries. A lot of majors, yeah, gold is great and all that. A strict gold deposit is very lucrative. But these porphyries are what the majors want. And that's, you're going to see, I bet you in this bull market, you're probably going to see a lot more of these bigger, high tonnage, low grade type porphyry things probably bought up more than a high gold grade vein. I think, just because that's typically, I asked Farshad once. I asked him. I said when like over the last 8 years or so, he's had calls from majors. And I was curious. I asked him once. I said, Farshad, when these guys call in the majors, what are they calling about? What attracts the major to call you? A porphyry. Typically porphyry has gold and copper. And he tells me that when they call, they're calling for the copper. It's the copper that's attracting them, and they call for the copper. The gold is all great. It's a lot of money, but they're calling specifically because of the copper. And I bet you if we didn't have the copper in our porphyry, well, technically we wouldn't be a porphyry. We wouldn't be getting as many calls. So it's the copper that the majors want. So
So let me ask what people will ask. You know, how long
yeah.
do you think the financing is going to take to close?
Well, it depends. Typically, these things take a couple weeks. It all depends. I think obviously the sooner the better. I hope that by this time next week it'll be closed by then next week. I think probably by the time next week, since we already started, we already saw part of the financing close. That tells me the rest of the money's probably on its way and about to clear. So I think we're looking at probably by the end of next week maximum, because we're already seen the first part. And I also know that Farshad, the way he operates is that, when he does his financings, and he said it in his video, he's very selective who he chooses. And the way he was talking about the last video, it seemed like he had some pretty top people that he wanted to get in, and that tells me that the rest of the money should come in pretty quickly.
Oh, awesome. Some good reads, probably, obviously trying to read the person. I mean,
Yeah.
he has been extremely smiley.
Oh, I know.
On videos, he's been extremely
Yeah.
energetic, which, hopefully is good for everybody. I think, we've already chatted for a while. Like, is there anything else like standing out where you want to cover? You mentioned that we can do another video after the
Yeah.
financing. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't. I think we covered everything now. I think we're as shareholders, for the new shareholders, it's just a matter of knowing how the game is played. I believe we're going to see much higher stock prices coming up. We're going to see, like I said, the speculation.
I think this was good. Obviously, again, thank you for educating people. I see how active you are. I'm sure everyone else does.
Yeah.
You're definitely an appreciated part of Doubleview. I know even Farshad has thanked you before.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and like I said, I've got a new report coming out. I was waiting for the drill plan to come out so that I can incorporate it, because I don't come out with these reports every week. I don't want to oversaturate the market and repeating myself. But this next report, real briefly, what I'm doing is that I'm hitting all the points of why it's important to be a shareholder, or why you should be a shareholder. And right now, I believe I'm about 8-9 pages long, and it's kind of point form, but it's taking a little bit from the other reports that I had, and it's kind of bringing everything together. And I'm talking about the location. Why is the location important? Why do you care about the location? I'm talking about the share structure. I'm talking about the shareholders. I'm talking about the mineralization we've seen. I'm talking about everything that all in one report. That if you read that report along with my other ones, if you are not convinced that Doubleview is a good investment, then if any possible investor is not convinced after that third report and seeing my first two reports, they can contact me privately. I'll call them. I'll physically call them, and I'll discuss it over the phone. There's so much more that I can me. I can talk hours and hours about Doubleview. There's so much you can put in a report, because sometimes it just gets. But if there's anyone after reading that last report with my last two, they can physically contact me. I'm going to put my email in the report. They can contact me in the YouTube comments. They can contact me any way that they can find me, and I will physically call them, and I will discuss them. And then they may have questions or doubts that sometimes I may not have addressed in the like whether or not it's the First Nations, whether or not issues about maybe being close to environmental issues, or whatever the case.
Yeah.
I don't cover all the bases.
I want to
in the
say
reports.
that, look, no one starts as a mining expert. A lot of people don't come from a mining background. I don't. It's been a learning curve for me too. As much as Pat or D4 might look a little bit more scruffy than he did in his first video.
Yeah.
He's a very nice guy, very easy to talk to.
I'm very
We
approachable.
all are.
I spend so much time in private, and I reach out to all sorts of people. So many people contact me in private, even in the Telegram group. They contact me in private. On the CEO.ca website, on tons of website, people contact me in private, and it's just easier just to tell everyone in one big group. It's easier, but I spend
Yeah,
most of my time dealing with.
don't think you have a stupid question. Ask it
Yeah,
again. I'll be the first person to say I didn't know anything about mining. Well, very
mm,
little about mining up until 6 months ago, 8 months ago. It's been a quick learn for
yeah,
me, and even D4's helped me with some of his reports. So that being said, make sure you ask. I know a lot of the
yeah,
stuff the company puts out is very technical, but it's nice to be able to have others kind of help you through it. And yeah, you can be a great investor but not know much about gold and
yeah.
get help. So
Yeah, we're
either
all in
way,
this together. Everyone's got the common goal of making money, and it's in my best interest, and it's in the best interest of shareholders that are very knowledgeable. On my Telegram group, we actually have an ex Grasberg geologist that chimes in sometimes. So collectively, we knowledge is power. Collectively, we can educate people, and the more we know, one person might contribute something, even if somebody is new in the mining, might be able to contribute something that all other people might have not thought about, and then we can discuss it, and we become more educated and better prepared for things to come, basically.
yeah. Well, awesome. I guess to kind of leave it here, for people that watch this, I'm sure there's questions. It looks like me and Pat are going to start doing these a little bit more
Yep,
frequently. So make sure if there's questions you want us to add into future videos, don't
yep,
hesitate to either reach out to Pat or
yep.
myself. I'm also in
Or
Pat's
even the
Telegram group.
comments,
Yeah.
and the viewers add the comments. I get a lot of questions. There's a lot of things. Like one of the questions I got recently was that one of the biggest concerns is what if the deep hole 35 is substandard. People do have concerns, and if they voice their concerns, we'll address those as best we can. And if I know ahead of time, a lot of times all these videos you blindside me with the questions, so I don't know what we're going to discuss. But if people actually have concerns, legit concerns, if they post it or let us know, I can physically look up the information. I'm not an expert on everything, but I'll go the extra mile to try to figure out and come out with the best educated answer, and try to address that concern as best as I can if
Yeah.
I know ahead of time.
No, for
Right?
sure. And we can structure them a little bit more going forward. I know I've been throwing it at you off the
Right?
cuff. You go on your long rants anyway, which is great. People love them, but I think this is great. Let's leave it here, and
Yeah.
we'll do more of them in the future. And people can
Great.
definitely leave their messages, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Sounds
Awesome.
good.